What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host and producer, Logan Landers, and joining me here this afternoon to talk about Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback coming out of Kentucky, representing the Wildcats, is Brian LaBelle. Brian, how you doing, man? And, we just talked about Darian Porter, an impressive cornerback as well, but this guy, Maxwell Hairston, might have one up on him in terms of just how he showed up at the combine and also stiffer competition. So, what were your thoughts on doing your research on Maxwell Hairston?
Well, I looked at his 2023 numbers. I'm like, wow, this kid is just an absolute ball hawk. Like, this guy is around the football consistently. His tackles, he's making tackles up near the line of scrimmage, interceptions. I'm pretty sure he had two pick sixes in the same game. I think it was against Vanderbilt. And I'm just like, my goodness, like this is insane. And then I look at his 24 highlights and I'm like, man, the numbers really fell off and there's not as much. But then it's because I think everybody in the SEC is like, hey, maybe we stop throwing the ball at this kid.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good idea because every time we do, he makes a play. So let's stop doing that. And I think it worked out a lot better for those teams. But I mean, this dude can absolutely play. He's playing at Kentucky, so he's going up against Alabama. I want to say he got Carson Beck at least once. I don't know if he got him twice, but just what he was able to do on the field against top tier guys you're going to be seeing on Sunday was, it was, I don't want to say second to none because I mean there's some really good cornerbacks in this draft, but man, kid can play sub 4.340, which is ridiculous. And I mean, there's nothing about this kid that you don't like. He's a great football player. He flies around the field. He's not afraid to stick his nose in and make tackles. I mean, Maxwell Hairston is going to be a very, very good NFL player.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, so he ran the 40 twice. He ran a 4.340, which most people would be okay with, but
He's upset with it.
Yeah, he said, you know what, I can do better. He ran a 4.28 in his second one. So talk about just blazing speed as well. He looked great as well, just with catching with his hands. He looked good there. Like I said, he's already built very nice as well with his height and weight. So this combine performance definitely upped his value. And like you said, his stats did decline a little bit this past season, but you got to look at that great 2023 year he had as a sophomore and how well he did. But I mean, this is a guy who he got to do a little bit of everything, right? So he didn't play a whole lot in 21. He redshirted, played a little bit in 22. So he really only played 2 years, Brian. He played in 23, like I said, with his impressive stats there. And then they figured it out in 24. They said, all right, let's hold off against this. And maybe let's not throw to him nearly as much. So, but still an impressive year nonetheless, right? He still earned a second team All SEC recognition. He had 3 career pick sixes as well, which, like you mentioned, the 2 against Vanderbilt in that one game, and actually tied a Kentucky school record with 3 pick sixes. So he already put his name in the record books there, down there in Kentucky. But I mean, just a phenomenal player. He's got the lineage as well, right? Former NFL linebacker Tywan Jones. He's got a cousin as well who played basketball. So, I mean, he's just an athlete in the whole family. And you saw that with his combine numbers and how well he did there. He's also on the SEC Academic Honor Roll. We always like to highlight that. But he's good in zone coverage, right? That's where his money's made there at Kentucky. He's got really good, obviously, closing burst. You saw the speed. He's got good change of direction as well. He's not just a flat-out runner. He can also move his feet if he needs to. If he gets beat, he can, he can catch up. And like I say, he's a little bit leaner, right? He's not, kind of super bulky or anything, but he's built well, I believe. So I like that, Maxwell Hairston, he has a good temper. He's got good confidence in himself. You see him, if he gets a pass defender or whatever, you'll see him hyping himself up and just having a good time. But I think you have to have a little bit of cockiness or whatnot to play quarterback. You have to have that, man, no one's throwing this ball past me. It's either going to the house or it's going down to the ground. So I like that about the young kid. But he looked great in the combine. He had some good, like I said, game film looked good, but the combine just kind of won up that, I think. Looked even better.
Yeah, I mean, look, sub 4.3, you're going to catch a lot of attention, right? It's just how it is. I don't know if he's the fastest player in the draft, but he's certainly right there at 1 or 2. He's got really good hands too, which is something you don't see a lot of as far as DBs, and that's why he was able to make so many interceptions and so many plays. And I think the biggest compliment you could have, which, you can argue Big Ten, SEC, whichever conference is better, but for a long time, the SEC was on top. They were the big dogs as far as college football. And you have offensive coordinators and coaches who are watching film breaking down, hey, we got Kentucky this week. We're going to avoid this guy. And that's probably the biggest compliment that you can pay to a guy on defense is like, we need to go away from him. Wherever he is, we need to go somewhere else. And if we got to get it to our number one guy and he's locked up, we're going to bring him in motion. We're going to run screens. We're going to run slants, quick stuff to just try to avoid him. But he's got is in the zone scheme. He was spectacular because he's got really good vision. He understands what the quarterback's trying to do. He's a ball hawk. He has everything that you would want in a prototypical the DB that can go up and make a play and kind of change the outcome of the game. And he kind of did that for Kentucky because you maybe driving down the field and then you pick 6 and all of a sudden the game you go from being down 7 now you're down 14. And he's all over the place. He's not afraid to come up and tackle against. I mean, some of these running backs and offensive linemen in the SEC are some terrifying human beings probably to see on a Saturday afternoon, depending on where you are. And he was fine with going up there and sticking his nose right up there with the big dogs. And like you said, the confidence to play DB, and I think he exudes it, but he does it well. He's not cocky, but he's very, very, very confident in how he plays the game of football, and he understands what he brings to the table. And I think now everyone else does too after his combine.
I think one thing that also might hurt his draft stock a little bit, maybe probably not as much now, was that he did miss a little bit of time this past season due to a shoulder injury. So, some teams might take a flyer on that just because he's like, hey, you were hurt this year for a couple of games, and we might want to pass on Maxwell and go to someone else. So, that could mean a team or two, overlooks him. But whoever does pick up Maxwell Hairston is going to get a guy who he's got good instincts too. I mean, he baits quarterbacks, like you said, into throwing the ball, and he's got such good speed and length that he can go out there and either like to get a pick 6 or bat the ball down. He's got that good recovering speed there too. And he's just, I think, overall a really solid player and someone who hasn't seen the field a ton. Like I said, he played a good bit in 23. That was his kind of breakout year. In 24, he was impressive when he played. It's just unfortunate he missed a couple of games. But someone who probably, a second, third round type guy, and I think will make a good impact in the league. But Brian, what are your final thoughts here on Maxwell Hairston before we round out the show?
Very good closing speed and very good recovery speed is one thing you kind of have to have as a DB in this game because you're going to get beat. That's just how it works at the NFL level. But he's fast enough to where he's like, oh, this guy got past me for a step. I can turn and run and get out, and I can catch up to a guy and maybe get my hand up and force an incompletion on a play that should have been a touchdown. And there's not a lot of guys that can do things like that because they don't have the speed and they don't have the talent to do so. And I think Maxwell exhibits both of those things. He's got good technique, good footwork. I think realistically, based on the talent pool in this draft, it's really, really difficult to grade exactly where a guy will go because you just don't know. Obviously, you said the shoulder injury. For some teams, it might be we might be a little hesitant on him. But with how much talent there is in this draft, I mean, this guy could end up falling, maybe second round guy and absolute steal for somebody in the second round.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. But, hey, the draft's coming up here in mid-April. So we'll see, if Maxwell Hairston, if he gets drafted, if someone may really like him and go first round. If not, might go day 2 early on, could be middle round. We'll see. But I think whoever picks up this young man is going to get hell of a cornerback and someone who's just going to, help go in there, grind in, day out, and just go and get it done. So I think he's a great player, and we'll see where he goes and who he's going to help win a couple of ball games here in 2025 going into however long he's in the league for. But we'll see where he starts his journey here in just a couple of weeks, and I guess really about a month away now. It seems like we just kind of flown past the Super Bowl at this point. You just kind of blink and you miss it with the NFL offseason. So that's how it is. But hey, well, for Brian LaBelle, man, appreciate you coming on the show, talking about Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback coming out of Kentucky. I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you again on another live episode.